Good morning, Frontline Bible Church. We hope that you are doing well. We want to say thank you for tuning in to our online service this week. It's crazy to think we're 1 week in, just over a week in to January, and as we know, 2020 was a time that was really challenging, and really, obviously, this week there was a lot of events that conspired at our nation's capital and things that happened there. And I just want to start this service by just reminding everyone of the words of Jesus. Right when he's about to go to the cross, Peter, his disciple, is disciplined after cutting off one of the servant's ears, and Jesus himself says, "Those who live by the sword will die by the sword." And I really take that to heart because everything that's going on, whatever stance you take, whatever you believe politically, to follow Christ is to let go of a sense of entitlement. It's to let go of authority and power that we think we have as humans. And Jesus did that for us. In the book of Philippians, we're reminded that he let go of his authority to die for us. And so in this time, like I said, I'm not sure where you're at and what you're facing, but we hope that the service you are reminded in this season that God is with you and that the way of Christ is the way of love. And so where there's hatred, may we be people who sow peace. And where there's discord, may we be people who sow love. We hope that the service blesses you, and we want to say thank you for tuning in.
This is my prayer in the desert, when all that's within me feels dry. This is my prayer and my hunger and need. My God is the God who provides. This is my prayer in the fire, in weakness or trial or pain. There is a faith proved of more worth than gold, so refine me, Lord, through the flame. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and he is here. My prayer in the battle, when triumph is still on the way. I am a conqueror and co-heir with Christ, so firm on his promise I'll stand. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and he is here. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and he is here. All of my life, in every season, you are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, you are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, you are still God. I have a reason to wait. I have a reason to worship. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and he is here. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare God is my victory and He is here. This is my prayer in the harvest, when favor and providence flow. I know I'm filled to be emptied again. The seed I've received I will sow.
God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant, faithful promises. And time again, you have proven you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. God, from age to age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same, yeah. Your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus,
Good morning, Frontline family. It's great to see you all again, at least through this camera. I'm envisioning you right now. Lord willing, if all goes well, we are planning on resuming in-person services for those who feel comfortable coming. We're planning on resuming those starting next week, January 17th. So I hope you are ready for that. But I also want to say a big thanks to JD, to our worship team, all the people that put our services together, for their efforts throughout this time of quarantine, virtual services, and thanks to all of you for sticking with it. I know this isn't anybody's preference, but it's what we've had to do. So I just want to thank you for that. But I had a great vacation, and it's great to be back, though. It's great to be back here. I wanted to be here today, and so I'm excited to be able to bring the word. So as I got to thinking here, I thought, what better way to celebrate the fact that it's a new year, what better way than to look back at 2020 and then look forward, I guess, a little bit, somewhat to 2021. And I thought, okay, let's do this. And so I went back and I started with my sermon notes from January, the very first Sunday in January of 2020. And I came up with the challenge. At the end of every message that I give, I always give a challenge. And so I thought, okay, let's start. What was the challenge from 2020 that I challenged all of you with? And so this was what it was. And I said, do you have the courage to pray this prayer? Do whatever it takes, Lord, to refocus my life on you in 2020. Now I said, do you have the courage? Because in January, we had no idea what was coming in 2020. And what a ride it has been. I don't know about you, but 2020 was tough. I know from many in our church family, it was maybe the toughest year that some of you have ever experienced in your life. For some of you, maybe not so bad. Maybe life was good for you. I know I have a family member who was loving 2020 because rather than having to commute so far all the time, he got to work from home and he was loving it. Maybe for some of you, you've been able to work from home and you love it now. Maybe there's been pros, maybe there's been cons. But I think there's one thing that can be said about all of us. We are pandemic weary. I didn't think much of it because I'm usually a pretty happy-go-lucky person. But I came back and I started work again on Monday, and I was asked by one of our staff members, so how you doing? No, how are you really doing? And I said, I'm not doing so good. I was excited for vacation, had a great vacation, but I came back and I was still tired. And so this person challenged me, why don't you write a letter? Just get it off your brain, write a letter, and then maybe share it, maybe don't. But after writing it, the comment was, I think you should share it because maybe a lot of us can relate to how you're feeling. And so I'm going to share with you a letter that I wrote to myself this past Wednesday. Dear John, there's a lot rattling around in that head of yours right now. And part of you doesn't even want to say anything. Just keep moving forward. It's just a temporary feeling. You've been down before, and it will pass. You don't have it as bad as some. You love being a pastor, and you know deep down inside you're a good one. One foot in front of the other, you can do it. But something doesn't feel right. 2020 is behind you, but 2021 doesn't seem to be very promising so far. You were hoping that vacation would refresh you, but 3 days into the new work week, it didn't help. You're feeling down, but you're not sure why. You sit and stare at the computer screen, wishing you had the motivation to work, but you don't. You have the best of intentions when the day starts, but you look back at the end of the day with guilt and shame that you weren't more productive. You're asked to be a leader, prepared to lead the church into the year 2021. But you don't even know what tomorrow will look like. People are counting on you to be positive and upbeat and motivated by what could be. But there are times, like right now, when you feel beat down by what is. As you're writing this, gunshots are being heard at the Capitol building as political demonstrators lose their cool. A family at church is being overwhelmed by injustice and you don't even know how to respond. You're not happy to be in quarantine due to exposure to COVID. The list could go on. So what do you think it is? Are you frustrated? Yes. Uncertain about the future? Definitely. Depressed? I don't know, maybe. Burned out? Not sure. Do you need another vacation? I don't think it would help. Do you want to quit being a pastor? Never. So what do you think it is? I think I'm longing for some sense of normalcy. I miss the way things were prior to COVID, but I'm realizing some of that, quote, normal may never be normal again. I miss shaking a hand, giving a hug, or even sitting next to someone not in my family. I remember what it was like to talk with someone without wondering if they were nervous that I might give them COVID. Sitting in a room with people didn't require social distancing. We could plan for things like weddings and graduations. Shoot, we could even have a funeral. These things that we took for granted have been at least temporarily taken from us. I miss my church family, all of them. Knowing it's been almost a year since I've seen some is hard to believe. Reading articles warning that many regular church attendees will never return after the pandemic is done, it bums me out. Not being able to pray with or even do a funeral for those who have died during the pandemic brings intense sadness to my heart. Seeing people fighting with each other, who prior to the pandemic were enjoyably serving together in ministry, is incredibly discouraging. I feel the weight of us working together on mission, but there are days when I think it would be easier to herd cats. I'm sick of feeling like I have to choose sides on everything. Republican or Democrat. Black lives matter or all lives matter. Masks or no masks. Science or freedom. When did we become so polarized? What happened to unity with diversity? What happened to believing the best about others instead of the worst? What happened to joy? J-O-Y. Jesus, others, then yourself. I want to preach a room full of people, not just a camera. I want to tell bad dad jokes and then enjoy seeing and hearing the jokes of others in person. I want to plan for future ministry opportunities that don't require pre-packaged food and 6-foot distance. I want to hear the lobby and multi-purpose room buzzing with conversation while people munch on cookies and sip their church coffee, whether they like it or not. I want a potluck. And I want to wear masks only for Halloween. But that's not our present reality. And you know what? I don't have to like it. I'm human. I'm tired. I'm ready for better days. Yet this I know to be true. I believe with all of my heart that God is at work. He's not out of control. He is up to something. He never wastes pain. He works in the strangest of ways, and His timing is always perfect. So, I lay all the things I miss and all the things I want at your feet, Lord, and trust your plan. I have to. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus than to trust and obey. In His service, John. You know, that was my letter to myself on Wednesday. My guess, maybe some of you could relate to that. Parts of it. Whether it's frustration, anger, intense sadness, just grief. We didn't expect 2020, and we didn't expect what we got. And certainly as we're here at the beginning of 2021, there's parts of us that are looking forward going, yeah, I'm not expecting much better anytime soon. And so with that in mind, I was really praying, Lord, what would you have me to say? God used a conversation that I had with somebody just this past week. A conversation about a man in the Bible by the name of Joseph. Joseph, I cannot tell you how many times I have talked about the Joseph of Genesis, not Joseph, Jesus' dad, but Joseph in Genesis. I can't tell you how many times I've talked about his life over the years when I've talked to people who are going through hard times. When they're in the middle of something and they're wondering, Lord, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What is it going to change? When's it going to be over? And I tell them, Joseph has encouraged and inspired me more times than you can imagine. And there's one thing about Joseph's life, which really was, okay, God, not that he said these words, do whatever it takes to refocus my life on you, but I will tell you, God took him on a wild ride in which he brought him to a place of unbelievable power and prominence, and yet it didn't start that way. It literally started with a dream, ended with a destination, but what a journey it was in the middle. And so I thought, what a way to put it this year then. And that is my point for today, I guess, the main thing. And that is, it's a journey from your dreams to your destination. Now, I realize this sounds an awful lot like some TV preacher guy who just wants to encourage you to give more money. It's a journey from your dreams to your destination and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I get it. It has that ring to it. But it's the best I could come up with. It's the best I could come up with as I thought, this has been a journey in 2020. It's probably going to continue to be quite a journey in 2021. But we know what our destination is, and our destination is secure. It's sure. We know great things await for those of us who know Jesus Christ. We know that perfect eternity exists out there. And we know the dreams that are there because we read our Bibles and we hear the things that are before us, and we get excited by those things. And we know what's coming, and yet what is, between what is and what's coming, is quite the path. It's quite the journey. And so today, it's going to be a little bit different today. As we go back through and we reread a little bit of Joseph's life, but actually go back and review a lot of Frontline Bible Church in 2020, and hopefully get excited about 2021. And so with that, I want you to turn in your Bibles to Genesis chapter 37. Genesis 37. Genesis 37 starts with a man by the name of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and one of his sons was Joseph. And Joseph, by the time we pick him up here in Genesis chapter 37, verse 2, he's a man who is 17 years old. Now, Joseph was his father's favorite son, and you got to know a little bit back in the day. Back then, guys, especially some who were rich, had multiple wives. And so Jacob, Joseph's dad, had 4 wives. 2 of them were wives, 2 of them were the maidservants of his wives. But in the society, they acted like wives. So he had 12 kids by 4 different women. But we know that Jacob loved Rachel, the one of his wives, the most. And so Joseph, who was the eldest of Rachel, was his favorite. Benjamin would be his younger son from Rachel, who would also become his second favorite when Joseph was out of the picture. But for now, we just read about Joseph, and Joseph was the favorite son. Well, maybe you know, if you've been in a family any length of time, that anytime parents play favorites, it's not going to go well for the other kids. And that's what was happening here. So sure enough, Joseph was kind of a daddy's boy a little bit, in that he told on his brothers when they were not doing their job according to the way he should. And so his dad loved that because, perfect, my son's taking good care of my interests. And the brothers hated him for it. Well, they didn't like him anymore when he says, I got some dreams here. And so in verse 5, Joseph says he has a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. What do you think, guys? Isn't that cool? Your sheaves are bowing down to mine? His brothers said to him, verse 8, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he has another dream, verse 9. And he told it to his brothers. Kind of a bonehead move right there. He said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Well, he knew they could figure out pretty quick the sun, dad, moon, mom, 11 stars were his brothers. When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you have? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? They couldn't fathom the idea that they're going to bow down to him. His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. The brothers are like, oh man, I'm so mad. I hate this kid. I hate my little brother. And they were waiting for the day then they could take care of that. And sure enough, that day comes. But dad hears the dream and says, I'm going to think about this a little bit. Well, what we know about Joseph's life, and we're not going to take the time to read through this, but we know what happens next. If you've been reading your Bible at all, or you've been in church much, what ends up happening next is you have Joseph, who is, he goes to check on his brothers, and his brothers hate him, and they're like, here's our chance, let's try to kill him. One of his brothers says, no, let's not kill him, let's just sell him into slavery. That way we won't have the guilt on our heads that we killed him. So they throw him into a pit, wait for the slave traders to come by, and they send him off to Egypt to be a slave. And then they fake the death by getting his favorite robe, putting animal blood on it, going back to dad saying, Dad, do you recognize the robe? And sure enough, yep, the dad's real upset. And Joseph's off in slavery. And the brothers are thinking, I've washed their hands of this guy. Well, in the text we read, and as we keep going, we realize that he made it down to Egypt, chapter 39. And we realize when he gets down there, he is sold in slavery to a man by the name of Potiphar. And Potiphar is the captain of the guard, and he simply becomes a slave in his house. Well, Potiphar's wife ends up kind of turning on him, tries to seduce him. Joseph has better morals than that, runs out saying, never would I do this to my master. She feels jilted, and as a result, she tells Potiphar, he tried to seduce me. Potiphar says to Joseph, time to get back into prison, and he's going to be a prisoner now for a while. We end up finding out, if you know our length of time, Joseph was sold into slavery at the age of 17. He didn't get out of prison for 13 years. Now think about it like this. How long of a year was 2020? Did it seem like it was ever going to end? When life is hard, the days tend to drag by. Which leads to, I guess, the first point from within this. It's a journey from your dreams to your destination. It started with a couple dreams that Joseph had. Those dreams were ones in which he would be a ruler, and somehow the boys were, and even his mom and dad were going to bow down to him. He didn't know what it looked like. He didn't see what was coming. He had no idea what that would eventually end up being. All he knew is it was a dream that had been given to him by God. But that dream started with something else. It started with unexpected grief. It started with unexpected grief. To think that you're supposed to be bowed down to as a slave, as a prisoner, makes no sense whatsoever. When we look into our own lives and we see, okay, God says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the fullest. And I look at my life and I think in many ways, oh my goodness, I've had unbelievable life and I've had it to the fullest. But I don't really know what that looks like in my life. In fact, I can look back over the years and there were times when my life hasn't looked full. It's actually had grief in it. And yet my life is nothing in comparison to many of you. So for Joseph, as he was there and he was experiencing this, for 13 years, whether you're a slave or a prisoner, even when good days are there, I'm sure there was still discouragement. I want to bring that back a little bit to our church. And by the way, I put together a list here of within our church of I've broken it down between the 3 points. And so I wrote here, by the way, there are 3 points today. It's a good sermon. And so we go through here and we see this. So what were some of the grief that we experienced? You know, we saw at the beginning, we were excited about 2020. Even if you remember the original slide, it said Happy New Year 2020, and we talked about refocusing our vision. We were going to be excited about things. We were going to be doing things like focusing on our finances. We were going to be focusing on outreach, community in terms within the church, as well as making sure that we were getting our financial house in order. There were 4 things, and finances, I already said that, community, whatever, and then the last one, communication, that's what it was. Those were 4 things that we talked about beginning of the year. We're like, these are things we need to work on. Well, God's taken us on a ride throughout the whole thing. And so I'll start off with a few things. What's some of the grief that we've experienced? I think this banner says it all. Welcome back. Sort of. I remember when we had to shut everything down. Prior to the pandemic, things were going along as planned. We were seemingly doing well. And then pandemic starts, and it was kind of okay, when are we going to be able to start seeing each other again? When I started, I was doing just virtual services. In fact, I saw some pictures as I was reviewing through the year. I saw pictures of me doing my sermon in my living room. And I remember what a drag that was. Trying to figure this all out, and so we've been able to be here a little bit, but this has been what it's looked like at times. In fact, as I look out right now, minus the bears, it's a very similar look as I look out right now, and I still see people almost identical to the placement here. It has been quite the year. But if we go back, welcome back. Statistically in America, for those churches who have regathered for in-person worship, the average attendance of now in comparison to what it was prior to COVID starting, the average attendance is 36% of what it was. 36%. Now, if you would have said to pastors back in beginning of 2020, hey, by the way, almost 2/3 of your church is not going to be showing up by the end of 2020. How many pastors, how many church leaders do you think would have been like, yeah, I can totally see that happening? They would have said, no way, no how, not my church. We're way too committed, way too ready for that. Well, what they found out was even those who reopened, many didn't feel safe. Many were still concerned. There was differences, discrepancies, divisions within the church. The welcome back, in many ways, was almost a bit of grief. One of my leaders, and I sent some questions out to all of our leaders, and one of our leaders said it best, in which her comment was, you know what 2020 challenge was? Virtual fatigue. Just fatigue. We're tired of video. One leader, in fact, I can use her name. This was Venus Matthews, and she said, I was so excited to be back into in-person church. I thought my church family would feel the same way. I don't like how this year has divided our church family. This brings me sadness. You know, as I see that, I think, man, it has been a tough year. You know, I remember one of the things that we like to do whenever we have a staff member or even a board member or whatever else, when they are done with their ministry here, we love to give them a goodbye. We love to do something publicly for them. Caleb Grund, when we said goodbye to Caleb, Caleb was well loved by our church, and yet he got married and he was moving on to different ministry opportunities. And when it came to saying goodbye, it felt like a ghost town around here. It wasn't a proper goodbye. Even when it came to saying thank you and goodbye to Brian Johnson, our men's ministry director, once again, it felt weird. When Corey Johnson stepped off the board, Corey was a rock in many ways to our leadership here at Frontline for many years. But when Corey stepped off the board, we weren't even hardly meeting together. And so when it came to saying thank you and thank you for all you did, it didn't even happen. So I want to just say publicly, Corey, if you're listening to this, you have no idea how grateful we are as a church, as leaders, for your leadership here at Frontline. your stability, your tenacity, your follow-through, much, much appreciated. And so I just want to say thank you to you, Corey. But when it came to whether it was Corey or Caleb or Brian or many of our others, saying goodbye, it was tough. It was just different. Frustration. I got a reply from our frontline women. They had a huge 5-year retreat celebration that was planned for this year. And they were ready, and they had rented out this big house, and they had all these people who were coming. And then they had to cancel it. And there's so much uncertainty even for this year that they had to cancel it again for 2021. And it's just, these things are grieving for us. They're tough for us. But probably more than any of these has been deaths. Looking back over 2020, Daryl Barkle, one of our men who were a part of this church for years, Daryl, he passed away at the beginning of 2020, and they were out of the area, and due to COVID, we couldn't even do any sort of memorial thing. Another one was June Favier. June Favier is one of those people you can never forget. June, I can't tell you how many kids came up to June, and she would always tell them, the day you get taller than me, you got to buy me lunch or something, and she would say. June was one of the most loved people here at Frontline. She dies, and we can't even do anything. Mark Anderson's father. Mark's on the board, even though Bruce never came, or he only came periodically when he was in town, but Bruce and Carol, this was their home church, away from their home church. And I can't tell you how many times, and I remember the last Sunday Bruce was here back in early November. I remember talking to him, never realizing that would be the last time I would see Bruce. Jerry Van Ewen, the brother of Terry. Jerry had come a few times with his wife Marcia. They were here, and just seeing that, I saw him, but it wasn't like something happened. It was simply COVID. And I'll never see him again. Marlene DeVries, even though I know it wasn't COVID, she had a stroke. The last time we had in-person services, Marlene was here. I'm going to miss Marlene. Marlene was one of those people who had been just a rock of this church for a long time. And even though Marlene was feisty, and she would tell you if she disagreed with you, and she told me many times, I'm going to miss Marlene. You know, these are griefs that we didn't expect in this journey from dreams to destination. They were unexpected, but it's part of life. But when you go through it, there was grief, but there's also, in that journey, there's unexpected grit. Joseph, in his life, when he was there, if we go to chapter 39, Joseph, there he is, in prison, he's a slave. Now granted, I get it, when you're a slave, you're kind of forced to work. But just because you're forced to work doesn't mean you have to do your best. And here's the thing, with Joseph, he did his best. He gets sent to this guy, Potiphar, and he's there and he's slave in his house, and even though things go horribly wrong, he does his best, and God was with him. It says there in verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So he left in Joseph's care everything he had. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Joseph, he got to it. I love that word grit. Thank you, Brian Johnson, for bringing that word up a few times to us. But that word grit, it implies hard work. It implies effort. It implies we're having to do something about this. And sure enough, that's what Joseph did. And God blessed him. Not only that, but even when he gets thrown into jail because of Potiphar's wife and the whole fiasco with that, he gets busy there in jail. Verse 21, but the Lord was with him again. They're in prison. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison. And he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Yes, there was grit that was involved. You don't just say, you know what, boy, my dreams, I guess this is never going to happen. You know what, forget it. I'm just going to be a good for nothing. I'm going to do as little as I can. That's all I'm going to do. When he was handed the bag of lemons, it's truly going back to that analogy. He made lemonade. And that's what I can say about so many in our church. And for the sake of time, I have to read this faster. But I will tell you, this is what it looks like. And I got a list here. I got to just read through it. Working together. The leadership. I am so proud of the leadership of Frontline Bible Church. Oh my goodness, we certainly had our fair share of discussions. We had our fair share of disagreements. But I am so proud of the leadership of this church because we worked together better and more throughout COVID than any other time that I can envision. You know, it was wearisome at the beginning for all the meetings. And I know as a board, when they would hear the words, we need to have another Zoom meeting, it was like, oh, are you serious? But we had to do it. And I'm so proud of the leadership and how they came together, they worked together. There was a medical advisory team that was instituted. Thank you. Kathy Campbell, Gretchen Johnson, Debbie Gruby. Thank you to each one of you. And I know that at times it wasn't easy, and at times there was even disagreement amongst the medical team. But we valued your input. And maybe there were times when it didn't look like it, but we did. Thank you for helping us as a board make good decisions on what to do. Whether it was the medical advisory team, getting our leaders together, we had a retreat where we gathered all the leaders out front, and oh my goodness, there was disagreement. But it was good. We had to do it. We had to come together, and we did it. Thank you. Giving levels stayed good throughout the whole thing. We met our needs. We never had layoffs. As a staff member, thank you, Frontline Bible Church. Marketing, I cannot say enough. I cannot say enough about Vicki and Bob Dolson. I can't say enough on how they have stepped up and stepped up and stepped up. At the beginning of COVID, countless hours I can't even imagine. And we were just in the middle of rolling out a new logo. We were just in the middle of rolling out a new website. 30, 40 hours a week, at least, as these two and the whole team really just gave their best. We owe a debt of gratitude to Bob and Vicki Dolson. Thank you guys for what you've done. Whether it's moving to electronic bulletins, the website, creating new t-shirts, you'll see them in some of the videos, merchandise. We've had a great year from that standpoint, but that took grit. It took hard work. Thank you to those who did. Changing of leaders. Corey's term limit finished. Once again, thank you, Corey. Dwayne Huff is chairman now. You guys, Dwayne's doing an awesome job. This church needs to say thank you to Dwayne Huff. I've had the privilege of working with Dwayne for many years. I knew when Dwayne said he would re-up for his term on the board, he was the right man for the job, and he has done a great job. And I thank you, Dwayne, from all of us. Thank you, Dwayne, for all you do. Frontline Women's Ministry. I can't say enough about the grit and the effort that Frontline's Women's Ministry has done. Kathy, Mary Edith, and Bev, big props to you guys. The Facebook group has done an excellent job of keeping the women connected here at the church. They've been doing the coffee break meetings in the park. They were orchestrating the drive to help Grace's Table throughout this whole thing. Serving Grace's Table. One of the things that they brought out was we helped build a gondola for Grace's Table. Grace's Table works with a lot of people, but the need came out. And so as a team, it was like, you know what? This is something we can do. And so some from our church went over there and built this gondola for them. And it was really cool. But some of the other stuff that happened was early on, right at the very beginning, when we were saying we need to support some of these single moms because a lot of their needs were still there. And sure enough, you guys stepped up. And it was like, okay, can we support them for 3 weeks? We did it. Okay, well, we need another 4 weeks. We did it. Okay, we need to do it to the end of quarantine. We did it. There was never a shortage. And that was you guys. Thank you for doing that. Serving moms, Grace's Table, whatever the list was, it just kept going. Frontline kids, I don't have pictures, but I wish I did. I don't have pictures for all the stuff. You'll see a few pictures, but I don't have it. But Frontline kids, they delivered gift bags to all the kids for the Advent season so they could participate as well. It was cool. I walked into the kitchen and I saw all these bags, and I'm like, I want to be a kid. I want to get some of this stuff. And they hand-delivered, drove all over the place, taking these bags to the kids. It is a thankless job in many ways to work with kids. We have some stellar leaders. And so thank you to Corey, Gretchen, Jill, Nate, Meg, I know I'm forgetting, Abigail, I know I'm forgetting some of them, but Children's Worship Ministry, or the Frontline Kids team, you guys, man, thank you. One cool thing, I just found out about this week. I didn't know that children's worship was actually happening over Zoom for kids. While we've been doing our morning services on Sunday morning, they've been offering Zoom for kids with the children's worship. I had no idea this was even going on. Thank you to our leaders. Frontline youth, doing youth group outside when they have to huddle around campfires. As the weather got cooler, they began to realize, we still can't go inside without masking and everything, and so they would huddle up around campfires and do this. Trying to do a Christmas party over Zoom when kids are already sick and tired of Zoom. I have huge props for our Frontline youth team. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Discipleship groups, whether it's Frontline men, Frontline women, Frontline youth, these discipleship groups that we're going, you guys are still doing it. And many of you, you're like, man, I just want to meet in person, but I can't. So you're meeting outdoors when you're freezing. You're meeting over Zoom, which is not convenient. You're doing all this. That takes grit. Thank you guys for doing it. Creative gatherings. Whether it's meeting outside. This was one of our board meetings. We're all sitting there in easy chairs, sitting on the outside. God was so good to us in 2020 by giving us warmth so late into the season. We were blessed to be able to do this. And so we sat outside and had some great meetings. But creative gatherings. I never thought it would be possible when we would have to have a reservation for the patio, the overhang out front. But so many groups were trying to meet, still get together, that we had to reserve a space outside. It was awesome. It was awesome. Meetings under the overhangs, meetings in the park for seniors, women of all ages. Man, you guys just kept with it. You kept with it, trying to be the body of Christ. I can't say thanks enough. Stretching as a church. I got to say this. This was pretty cool. One of our leaders, and I'll say the name because she didn't say I couldn't, but Kathy Campbell. She said this. She said, I enjoyed being pushed to think differently. Now I'll ask you, how many of you like being pushed to think differently? If we're honest, most of us don't want to think differently. But Kathy says, I enjoyed being pushed to think differently. I think it's always a great opportunity when what has been done can't be done the same way. It gives us a chance to see things that maybe we have missed by things going as we plan. And you think about it. When you're told that you can't do it a certain way, then you have to get creative, don't you? And whether it was our Frontline women, Frontline youth, Frontline men, Frontline women, whatever it was, we rose to the challenge. You guys, big props to all of you. The worship team, yeah. And the last one, unity. Unity. And the reason why I say that's in the category of grit is because this took hard work. In spite of the challenges and disagreements we faced, we have stayed together through it all. It breaks my heart. I even have talked to pastors here in Byron Center whose churches have split due to COVID. You have no idea how discouraging that is. And so, I just want to say thank you. For those of you who were willing to put the mission of Frontline beyond your preferences, you were willing to stay together, to work together, to say, you know what, I may disagree with this person, I may have a hard time against this person, but he's still my brother, she's still my sister, we're still in the church family. And I thank you. That takes grit and determination. I'm realizing I got way more to talk about. But you know what, doggone it, we're going to do it anyway. Because as we come to the last one, there's grief, there's grit, and there's growth. The journey from your dream to your destination involves a lot of grief, it involves a lot of grit, but it also involves a lot of growth. Joseph, when he went through his thing, and we don't have time to go through all the stuff, but there's a lot of things, but one of the things that I want to emphasize is there is in Genesis chapter 50. In Genesis chapter 50, and the brothers, dad had died, the brothers are thinking, oh no, now Joseph, he's going to come and he's going to kill us now. Now that dad's gone, his reason to keep us alive, he's going to hate us. He probably just kept us alive because dad was making him keep us alive. We better go there and come up with some sort of a lie. And so they bring him a lie. By the way, dad told us to tell you that you can't hurt us. Pretty much what it was. Joseph's heart is broken because he realizes he wasn't treating them kindly for dad's sake. He was treating them kindly because he saw God in this. And I love there one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible, Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 and 20. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Verse 20, favorite verse. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for the good as that is now being done. I will tell you, when I look at this, I know some awesome stuff has come about in 2020. And so I just got to go through it, just this list, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. I'll go quick. New hires, JD. Man, welcome to the team, JD. I know it has not been easy for you. When you just show up to work and 6 weeks later, your job description almost completely changes. We are grateful, and we're so blessed to have you on the team here at Frontline Bible Church. Tina Post, as Caleb steps out, Caleb, well-loved, a lot of cool things. And it was like, oh no, who's going to step in? And we got Tina. We are so happy to have you. I am so happy. I love your heart. I love your commitment. I love your drive. It would be really easy to just get discouraged. And you continue to persevere. You continue to press on. Great things are in store for our youth ministry because of you, Tina. New leaders. Anthony Ballou. Man, I'm excited for Anthony. This guy, he's got all sorts of passion and energy. I've had the privilege of being a mentor in his life for 5+ years. The growth that I've seen is unbelievable, and he is now working with our outreach team, leading that team. And I know for some of you, you have already witnessed and worked with him. There's big stuff happening for that young man. New purchases, outdoor heaters. Who would have ever thought that Frontline would buy outdoor heaters? But we did it, and now we have them ready for us in the future. Technology, Zoom. Oh, blessing and a curse right there. But we're able to have meetings and gatherings and do this over Zoom. We're able to do virtual church. We're able to do virtual board meetings, virtual small group meetings, discipleship groups, whatever it is. We're able to do it because of it. Texting in church. Those of you who have a phone probably got a text this morning reminding you, we never had this prior to COVID. 2020 brought along a reason to do it, and we're going to keep using it. It's been very, very helpful. Internet. How many of you have struggled with the internet at Frontline Bible Church? Oh, frustrating. But we're getting our upgrade, and we've been working on it, and hopefully it's going to be ready, installed, all set for us starting next week. Lord willing, that'll mean we won't have so much lagging of our services on Sunday morning. Virtual services. I have to say a huge thanks to Brian Voss, Troy Scouty, Paul Anderson, Sarah Anderson, and J.D. Dolinsky for your tireless efforts in putting on the Sunday service, especially when virtual. And I have to give an extra thanks to Paul Anderson for the countless hours of editing and rendering our Sunday services that you did over the last year. We could not do what we do without you, Paul. Props to you, man. Virtual prayer time Easter Sunday morning. That was cool. We had never done something like that before. That's my idea of a sunrise service right there. I get to just wake up, get on a computer screen, and we do it, rather than having to show up in a parking lot and freeze to death. But we did a virtual prayer time. How cool was that? Frontline Women service projects, whether it was building the gondola that I talked about earlier, poinsettia deliveries. I had no idea this was even happening until one day somebody knocks on my door and they said, here, we brought a poinsettia for you. They delivered it to shut-ins, to seniors, to those who were in need, and they even blessed the pastor. I just thought that was cool. So man, whether it also, the Frontline Women, they organized and facilitated the Secret Santa program. For me personally, I never figured out who I had until he told me, Paul Anderson. So that was a really cool thing that the church was able to do together. Community building events. Service in the parking lot on Memorial Day. Our first Sunday back in person. Man, that was fun. And God, blessed from it comes to the weather. Oh, that was so good. Bike ride to the park. I got a picture there for you. Bike ride to the park. I don't know how many people we ended up having, but it was a good group. All ages. We rode a lot of miles, it felt like. But we came back, had a great time. That was a lot of fun. John Records organized it. It was great. Movie night in the parking lot. I didn't have the picture of it, but we watched Cars. It was fun to go out there. We ate junk food, roasted s'mores, ate popcorn, watched the movie. We had a blast. It was just a great time to be a church family. The bonfire. The bonfire. We had a raging bonfire. I asked the youth whether they would organize this, and they put on a massive bonfire. It was not for the faint of heart or heat. And then I had the opportunity to make a fool of myself doing Father Abraham, proving that I have zero rhythm in my life. Also, a church work day. We got out here, Brian Voss and the deacons organized this, and we had just the right amount of people. A lot of times come spring, there's so much work to do. When it came to fall, we had a great group of people show up. We got this place ready. I think our work in the spring is going to be minimal because of the work that was done in the fall. Those were community building things, and you showed up for it. Thank you. Also, some outreach events. This was some of my favorite parts of the year. And so, here we have. Cards to our neighbors. Our impact on Byron Gardens has been very minimal over the years. And I don't think that's good. And this year we said, with everything we're going through, it's time we do something about it. And so sure enough, we put together these cards, and we mailed out 2 different cards. And it was cool because even though we didn't hear from actually I think we heard back from 1 person or 2 people. You never know what seeds were planted. And you never know, as we continue to pray for ways to reach to our neighbors, you never know how God is going to use this card or the other one that went out from there to speak and to plant some seeds for them. Whether it was cards to our neighbors. Also, flood relief in Midland. This was a lot of fun. It was a group of 9 people, and we went there, and it was miserable work. We went there because the dam broke there near Midland, and it was a disaster. Thankfully, none of us came down with malaria or anything like that. Not that you can get that there, but it was dirty work. But boy, I'll tell you, Emily Bear, you go, girl. Man, her passion and her drive for organizing something, you got to organize something else. But it was a fun group as we met there and worked hard and just had a great time together. But flood relief in Midland. Also, the disc golf event. We were able to do 2 of these. We were hoping to get a 3rd one in, but then it just got too cold. We've tried to do outreach events before, but we have never had an event, in my understanding, that has gotten as many people who I'm almost certain do not attend church anywhere, not just our church, but anywhere, to be at one place. And Anthony was able to get up, and I thought this shirt was very fitting for Anthony. As he got up there and he was able to share his heart, his testimony, people heard the gospel both times. And they're excited to be able to keep coming. And every time we will be giving them an illustrated look at what the gospel's like. And that's cool. So 2 times we did that. And then Serve and Treat Day in Byron in Byron Gardens, our neighborhood over here. We raked leaves, and then we also put on like a picnic or the goodies things. It was great. We had such a great time with them. And then, this was also a lot of fun. Christmas goodie baskets. Church family, you guys stepped up in huge ways. When you delivered goodies and stuff, you delivered goodies. I remember asking, okay, how many goodies do we have on the list? The list didn't have very many. But I said, I just feel peace. It's going to come in. And that Sunday, it came, and it came, and it came. And we had so many goodies, we had to fill 6 8-foot tables just to spread it all out so that we could make the baskets. We ended up making 13 baskets for all the businesses here on our street, our neighbors, as well as the police department, the fire department, and a couple nursing homes in town. Some of these boxes, no joke, had to weigh 40 pounds. 40 pounds of calories. That's what it was. And it was fun. It was fun to be able to walk into these places and go in and tell them that we've prayed the calories out so they can enjoy them calorie-free. That's what it was. But we did this, and it was because of you. It was because of you and all the donations. And in fact, I got a card here. The card was from Starlight Kitchens, one of our neighbors right here. And they wrote, the eggnog bread, recipe please, pretzel wreaths. We had one lady in our church, and I won't give her name because I'm sure she wouldn't want me to tell you who it was. But she made literally hundreds of these things. And they were a labor of love. And they said, pretzel wreaths, what a labor of love. Mini loaves of various breads, so yummy. Great cookies, Rice Krispie treats, love them. Healthy fruit, thank you, thank you, thank you. Frontline Bible Church friends, we were so blessed by your Christmas box of love. Our staff has enjoyed nibbling on all the sweet treats. May the joy of Jesus warm all of your hearts this holiday and into 2021. We have no idea how that box will make an impact on the lives of our church family and on the lives of our neighbors around here. We have no idea. But we did it anyway, because that's why it matters. The body ministering to the body. Got a few more things here. A guy used a skill in the church. He used a skill in auto repair to save over $1,000 in repairs for someone who couldn't afford it. He heard about a need and he said, I want to step up. Saved over $1,000 in repairs. Text group. I've had the privilege of being a part of a text group for the last about 2-3 months, in which we've been journeying with a family who's going through some tough stuff. I cannot tell you how I have personally been amazed at how the body cares for the body. As I've been watching this, and it's been fun. It's been fun for me to watch and see how these individuals are ministering through texting, through the life and the journey that this person's going through, this family. I'm in awe, and I think, man, you guys should be the pastor, not me. Drive-by birthday party for Shelley Luce. Shelley turned 60. I mean, that's a big deal. Usually we would maybe have a cake here. Well, we can't. Well, many of you came, got in your cars, drove over, and blessed Shelley and her family by simply driving by and talking to her through a window and wishing her happy birthday. I talked to the family afterwards. They were so grateful for those who came. That was the body, ministering to the body. Prayer. Man, I can't tell you how many people have been calling and texting and sending over a meal or whatever. And I hear this all the time. It's the body caring for the body. You guys did it in 2020. It was awesome. And then lastly, the end of year giving challenge. This is awesome. Okay? The end of year giving challenge. Our budget, okay, just so you know, our budget every month is $18,500 based on how many Sundays are in the month. And so we had 4 Sundays in December, so it was $18,500. We met budget, and we did an end of year giving. And our goal was $9,000 because we realized that we needed to do catch up. We wanted to bring it back to a place where we were in the black at least to start the year. Because if 2020 was crazy, we have no idea what 2021 is going to bring us. And so the challenge went out. Can you help us, on top of all that you guys did for the goodie baskets, can you help us bring the budget back? You guys brought in $9,130. $130 over the goal, which is so cool. So that's like clap, right? That was pretty cool. We would do that if we were in church together. But that's not even the whole story. Remember, I told you, our budget was $18,500. If you add $18,500 and $9,130 together, you end up with somewhere around $27,630. $27,630. Not only did you guys bring in $27,630. Actually, the total for December came in at $35,542.27. Therefore, the end of year giving, if you were to put it all together, actually looked like $17,042. That means we almost doubled the amount that was hoping to be raised. Now that is something we're celebrating. And so I just want to say, man, as far as the church goes, yes, we've had our grief. We've had our grit. Man, you guys have showed up. But we've also had growth. There is some awesome, awesome stuff that's happening at Frontline Bible Church through people, through things. And so as we look at 2021, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Well, it's a journey. We started 2021 and we're like, we almost don't even want to think too highly of what it could be, but we're excited about it. And so I want to give you just a couple things here as we come to the end. And that is this. It's a journey. And if we're going to get there, we need to work together in unity, not uniformity. I have to say this because I know as we start gathering again, we're going to be meeting again next week, and we're going to be requiring masks. And for some of you, you're going to be like, thank you, that means I can come. For others of you, I get it. You're frustrated. I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated. But I'm asking that even if you have a difference of opinion, we're not asking for uniformity here. We're asking for unity with diversity. Have your opinion, but take your opinion and put it aside for the sake of the greater good, because we need each other. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the bickering. I'm tired, and I'm sure you are as well, and we need each other. Let's come together. Let's work together in unity. Let's also work hard. Work hard. That means do whatever it takes. You know, as I look at the needs that are before us, we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of things that are before us. We have no idea what 2021 is going to bring. But I guarantee it's going to bring outreach projects. Are you going to show up for those? I guarantee it's going to involve work days. Are you going to do whatever it takes? I guarantee it's going to involve sacrifice. It's going to involve serving. Are you ready to do what it takes? And I want to give you a need. I want to give you a real need that's going on right now. And I'm calling on my church family to step up. Okay? And that need involves our children's ministries. As I shared with you, our children's ministries have been hit hard. It's hard doing ministry over Zoom, over COVID. They have volunteer needs because some volunteers are able to come, others are not able to come. They need our help. And I know we have a lot of able-bodied people in this church. Whether you're young, whether you're middle-aged, whether you're old, grandparents, parents, kids, whatever. I want to flood children's church, our children's worship ministry. I want to flood them with people who are willing to say, I'll take a week, I'll take a month, I'll be willing to give up my time on a Sunday morning service. Yes, I'd rather be here, but you know what? I'm going to do it for the sake of the kids. I'm going to do whatever it takes. We're going to work hard. That's what I'm asking for you in 2021. Are we really willing to work hard for what the mission is here at Frontline? And then the last one, work with anticipation. This is God's work. Yeah, it's been hard in 2020. A lot of challenges. But man, there's been some cool stuff that's happening. What's 2022 going to look like? When we do our look back and our look ahead, what are we going to see in 2022? Joseph had no idea when he got that dream what that dream was going to eventually end up like. But it was cool when it did. We have no idea what this year is going to bring, what the next 5 years are going to bring, but is it possible that the things we're doing right now are preparing the next generation and what they're going to do with what happens here? And so I just want to say thank you. I want to say I'm excited. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of this church. I'm so proud of the leaders, the staff, everybody. You know, as I wrote that letter at the beginning, it's easy to get discouraged. But like that old song says, count your blessings. As I counted my blessings, I couldn't help but get excited again about where we're going. And so I ask you, are you in? Are you part of the team? Are you ready to work in unity? Are you ready to work hard? Are you ready to work with anticipation? I sure hope so. Bring on 2021. Let's pray. God, thank you for today. I thank you for your word. I thank you for the stories. I thank you for the example of Joseph. And I thank you for the opportunity that we have to be your church, to be your servants, to be in ministry, to be able to be your representatives, not just to each other, but to a world that desperately needs you. And man, as we get going forward, we're definitely going to need you. I look at our future that's within our country, and there's a lot of challenges out there. There's a lot of division, a lot of hatred, a lot of disunity. Who knows even what this week is going to bring? But you do, and you've given us the gospel. You've given us Jesus Christ, who is the only one who can change our hearts and change our churches, to change our communities, to change our world. It's the only one. He is the only one. And so may we stay together. May we work hard. May we work with determination and anticipation. May we do whatever it takes, God, to see your work and your word go forward in this world. And so we thank you for all you've done. In Jesus' name we pray. And all those in agreement said, amen.
Thank you, Pastor John, for your message on looking back at the Lord's faithfulness and also looking ahead to Him fulfilling His promises. And I'm thankful for a God who keeps His promises in being with us through everything. And this song talks about that and the Lord not failing us in His presence. So we hope that this blesses you. Thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me. Promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never failed me yet. And I know the night won't last, for your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe
still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. Still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet.
Many of you may have heard, and you'll be receiving information this week we're hoping to go back into in-person services. You'll be able to find information from our board on that via text message and MailChimp. So be on the lookout this week for that. Our next thing we want to highlight is our Coins for Kids campaign. We're starting that next week, and so you'll be able to pick up your bottle, put some loose change in it, and donate to what we're doing here at Frontline for the Coins for Kids campaign. The next thing we want to highlight is for our Frontline women. With that, we have our Next Steps Women's Bible Study. You can find that on our bulletin online, and you'll see how that's going to happen. And thank you so much to Kathy Campbell and all she's doing to help the Frontline women. Again, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We hope you have a great week and stay safe.